All right, beautiful. So, listen, everybody. Thank you guys all very much for being on this lunch and learn here with my good friend Mathew Frederick. And listen, if you guys don't know Mathew, he's been doing some incredible things. He's attended many of our mastermind events that we've done at Smart Home Choice. Um, it's unfortunate, we've got to do the virtual classes now, but I get it. I understand why we're doing it, but I definitely can't wait for us to kind of be able to get back into those rooms because they're actually so much fun. They're full of so much energy, and I consider Mathew a very good friend. Not only just a friend, but he's also been a very good mentor to me as well too. We've gone for lunch, we've gone for dinner, we've shared ideas, and we've done I think a lot of great things together. So Mathew, thank you very much for being on the call today. And what Mathew is going to be talking about this afternoon, and I think for a lot of investors in the beginning, it can be a little bit of a scary transition if you're going from a single family home or even like a BRRRR strategy into that multifamily space. And I would say that Mathew has done a phenomenal job at doing it himself. And he's also done a phenomenal job at being able to do it for other investors and mentoring them through that. So without further ado, Mathew, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, Gary, it's always great to be here. Always great to see the team. So I started investing back in 1992. So my first 5 or 6 years was more into residential, buy, fix and sell, buy and hold, and what's called wholesale today, which I call assignment of contract. But at some point, I came to a realization that, having a lot of properties is good, but if I'm leaving my job because, I'm able to make so much money because I have so many properties, once you get to about 30 properties, you're going to realize that becomes your job. So, 10 different locations, 12 locations, 15 locations, even if you're making a lot of money, you've walked away from your job to do that, that in itself is a job. So, I thought, can I get into larger spaces where I have everything in one spot? And how's that going to work? So after my first number of houses that I bought, I got a sixplex in Kitchener. I still didn't, make the transition mentally. I just saw the sixplex. I couldn't get it. I had to get my sister to co-sign it because I was maxed out. I already hit the wall. And, I got it. And I realized after a few years, man, everything's in one spot. And I kind of like that. And I like the fact that multifamily is really purpose built. It's almost like a Jeep. A Jeep is designed to go off-road. A Honda Civic is for on-road. And houses are like Honda Civics. Even if you put a lot of money into them, they still get beaten up a lot easier by, let's say, tenants than, let's say, a purpose-built Jeep or a purpose-built multifamily building. So, I saw that right away that it did less repairs, a lot easier to move in and move out of space designed for that. So then years later, I thought, okay, I want to get into the multifamily realm. So here's the concept that I always share with a lot of people. Now, keep in mind, I'm using small numbers here. It's not an accurate picture. It's just more of a concept. So let's say you can get a duplex for $400,000. And in a lot of places, you can't do that. In some places, you can. And let's say your duplex is making you cash flow of $500, free and clear, before you have to pay your taxes. Well, that's not bad. In fact, and by the way, this duplex here, if you're using Airbnb, you can make more money. If you're doing student rental, you can make more money. But we're not talking about that because that's a bit of a business in itself. But really, in order to make $6,000 a month to live on, because a lot of people say to me that they'd like to make about $6,000 a month, you're looking at about 12 properties at 500. And that's about $4.8 million. So if you're looking at 12 properties at 500 to make $6,000 a month to help replace your income, and you're buying these houses with $400,000 a piece, and some of them are way more expensive elsewhere, that's about $4.8 million. So when people say to me, I'm afraid to get into multifamily because it's so expensive, it's in the millions, well, sure it is, but take a look at this. A strip plaza or a multifamily building for $2.2 million, cash flows around $3,000 if you do it right. Well, that cash flow is $6,000 if you get 2 buildings. And therefore, that multifamily or strip plaza, whichever one you're choosing, it's about $4.8 million. So you have to say to yourself, do I want 12 locations, 12 roofs, 12 hot water tanks, 12 sets of tenants, 12 hassles, mortgages to refinance, or do I want to get two buildings, multifamily, or even strip plaza? The strip plaza right now is taking a beating because of COVID. Hard to finance those, but still okay to finance multifamily. Do I want to put my $4.8 million into two buildings and make the same amount of cash flow? So that's your choice. Now, some people say to me, well, I don't have $4.8 million in either case. Well, that's where JV partners come in, or that's where you have to start finding properties and assigning them to make the sufficient fees to build up your down payment money. But again, I like this section over here where I'm getting a few buildings to do the same that a lot would do, okay? Now, a lot of people ask me, what's the most important thing that you need to know as an investor? Well, the same thing that you need to have all these games played correctly. Without a thumb, you really can't play tennis, football, baseball, or even basketball to your max. But with that thumb, you pretty much can do BRRRR, buy, fix, sell, rent to own, wholesale, multifamily, joint venturing. What is the thumb when it comes to all this? It's simply finding off-market deals. So when people ask me, what's my number one skill? What am I best at? What do I focus my skill set on to develop? How do I find off-market deals? And how do I find buyers? And how do I find JV partners? When I say buyers, I mean people to wholesale those off-market deals to. Now, I'm talking about multifamily. So why am I saying wholesale? Well, with all my students, we wholesale multifamily buildings. So a $2.2 million building that's, let's say it's in Barrie, 2.2 million, 10-unit building, that can wholesale for $150,000 more than that price. So you can wholesale houses, you can wholesale multifamily buildings. So why not just buy them? Well, in the beginning, maybe you can. Maybe you need that wholesale of $150,000, that assignment fee, to add to the next assignment fee, to the next assignment fee, the next assignment fee, and you do that for a whole year. You do 4 buildings, you pick up $500,000 in assignment fees, you have to pay your taxes on that. But now you're getting into the game where you have more down payment money, okay? So it's not just wholesaling, it's not just multifamily, but you should be wholesaling multifamily. But the key thing is, what is the thumb to all these sports? What's the thumb to every strategy? You need to know how to find off-market deals. So to do that, you always have to create a system, because a system always beats just random things. So now obviously, I can take probably 3 days to teach you what I'm about to tell you right now, but I'll just truncate it and keep it as simple as possible. I use a 10-35 formula, so 10-35. I connect with 10 property managers. It could be in any city, any area. My goal with the property manager is to get to know them, make them understand that I'm looking for off-market deals. Now, I also have to give them a benefit, because if a property manager is managing a property for John, and John sells the property to me, and I don't take on that property manager, then the property manager loses that deal. So they have no incentive to connect me to one of their owners unless there's something there for them, okay? So keep that in mind. But I generally try to connect with 10 property managers or 10 superintendents or anybody who is in the management industry. And there's a special way to talk to them, special things you should say and should not say. Usually when I have 10 of these, it generates about 30 property owners for me over about a year period of time. I get to meet property owners. Now, a property manager will not give you a property owner's information, but you can send your information to the property manager with proper incentive. The property manager may then connect you to the property owner if the property owner chooses to call you. Once I've built up a series of property owners, some of them want to sell, some of them don't. The ones who want to sell are usually about 5 of them within 1 year. So it takes me a year to get 10 property managers to build a relationship. From that, I'm able to get about 30 property owners that I get to know and build a relationship. And from the 30, 5 of them will probably sell within that year. Now, if 5 sell, a whole bunch of them are still looking to buy. Because my stats are this. Every time I talk to 12 property owners, 2 are thinking of selling. 1 definitely says to me, hey, it's a miracle that you called me. The second one says, make me the right offer, I might sell. So that's 2 out of 10. Now, 6 out of 10 do not want to sell. They're still growing. So if they don't want to sell, that's okay. I'm going to ask them what are they looking for, and those are my potential assignment deals When I do find the ones who want to sell, I can assign those deals to those 6. And of course, the remainder 4, those 4 probably want to hold their properties forever, and some of them are holding them for retirement. And I can deal with that as well. Now, keeping that in mind, the whole thing is, how do you contact off-market properties? Well, I just use a simple system. I use a door-to-door system where I talk to the superintendent to connect me to the owner. Sometimes they give me the numbers. Sometimes I give them my information and they connect me. Special way to talk to them. Sometimes I just look for signs outside of the building and I call the property manager, and sometimes it's the super, sometimes it's the owner, sometimes it's a management company who then, again, is a special way to make that connection so I can talk to the owner. I may look for properties that are out there for rent and try to connect with the owner. Or again, I may talk to property managers and see if we can do that connection, if they can forward my information to the owner, and the owner may contact me. So using these systems, I then gather the 10 property managers with my scripts and my letters. And then with the building owner, if I get about 30 of them, usually someone's buying, someone is selling, I bring them together. And then when I bring them together, then it creates an opportunity for me to go back to other owners. So it creates a cycle. So I'm hoping you begin to see a bit of a system here. And of course, if I have a good relationship with the property manager, they may tell me about somebody who may want to sell. So why would a property manager tell me about somebody who wants to sell? Well, here's the cold hard facts about managing property. You're probably getting some kind of percentage of gross rent. Let's say you're getting 10% of gross rent. If the owner of the building puts a lot of money into the building or does not put a lot of money into the building, you're still getting 10% of gross rent. No money going in means you're working harder and harder and harder as the building is falling apart, as the owner becomes more of a slum landlord. So you're getting paid the same amount of money, your work is going up. The advantage is when I come in, I'm going to buy that building, and I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm going to put money into that building, I'm going to improve it. I'll keep you on deck as a property manager, but your work level goes down and your income continues to be the same or may even go up. So that's an advantage to why you should find your worst properties, the ones that cost you the most headaches as a property manager, and see if you can get rid of a few of those by connecting the owner to me, and perhaps I'll buy them from the owner, fix them up, keep you on deck, make your job easier, and go from there. Okay, so keep that in mind. So the multiples are 10 property managers to get 30 owners to get about 5 deals. By the way, we do more than 5 deals. This year we did 14 deals, but I'm just using 5 as a simple number. And you hear about this 10x stuff, 10x this, 10x that. Who the hell knows what that means? All I know is when I have 10 managers, I got lots of these managers, and this manager here has a seller and has an owner, and maybe this seller wants to sell the building to some of the other owners within this manager's, let's say, house. We'll call it a house. But maybe no one wants to buy. But because I know this owner and this owner and this manager, I have so many managers, maybe this guy wants to sell and this manager knows somebody who wants to buy. So that's how you get multiplication out of what you're doing. Remember, it's always systems. And right now I can tell you I have about probably 30 property management companies all around the place who I have great relationships with, who when somebody wants to sell a building, they tend to let me know about it, and then I go from there. So they're doing the work for me, and then I'm moving forward. Now, okay, so that's one system. What if I'm looking to do the door-to-door, I'm looking to find actual multifamily buildings? Well, multifamily buildings really haven't been built for about 60 years. And here's why. To build a building and rent it out, it takes a lot of money. What if it takes $30 million to build a building? And then you have to rent it out. If you're going to collect your money through rents over the next 20 years, that's not great. It's probably better to build a building for 30 million, sell each unit as a condo, recover all your money, and pay back the money you borrowed. And that's why the only people who've been building big buildings for the past 60 years are all the REITs, people with the biggest chunk of money that they want to park their money in a building. They'll collect money on rents, but they're going to be there for a long time. So apartment buildings really have not been built for a long time. Some people do build small ones now. But where are they found? Well, if this is Kitchener.
Hey, Matthew.
Go ahead.
Can anybody hear Matthew? Look at your vocals went out, or is that just me?
No, I can hear him.
Is my vocal?
Yeah,
Yep,
no
here.
problem. No problem.
Here?
All
That's
good.
me.
Here, you can hear it.
Yeah,
Oh,
Matthew, you're good. You can go on.
oh, okay, good. So basically, if this is Kitchener, what I do is I'll spot the Walmarts. So there's the core of the town, there's the Walmart. Somewhere between Kitchener's core and Walmart, or by the way, any city, there's going to be a corridor, major road corridor. Usually just outside of the core, there's going to be a corridor where buildings were built about 50 or 60 years ago. It looks a lot like this, see? So not by Walmart, that's where the new stuff is coming in, not at the core, but on the way towards your Walmarts, that's where you're going to find some of these buildings that were built in the 50s and 60s. So for instance, I might just grab a stretch, like this is Hamilton now. I might just say, here's a stretch of property. And what I want to do is I want to own an area. I'm not going to jump all over the place and hit every single building in every single city, every single spot. I might take a 10-block radius. There's lots of buildings. You know, it might be 5 city blocks, might be more, low or high-rise buildings, could be multifamily or plazas, easy walking distance. And I'm going to own this street. I'm going to be the king of Kensington. I'm going to own this entire street here by getting to know every single building owner, every single building, and whatever situation there is. And then I'm going to then begin to, for some of these owners, I might buy the building. Some of them may not want to sell, but they may want to joint venture on a new building. Some may want to, you know, find a building that I'm taking from one person and assign it to another. But once I have an area, I'll go to Google Earth and I'll just pick it. So I've just zoomed in on that area right there. So you can see a bunch of buildings. I've just zoomed in on that. And now I'll even go to Street View. So I'll just pick a building on Street View, just a random building. And I'll take a look at it and I'll note how large, you know, how high is it? How many units? Is there a buzzer? Is there a sign out front? Is it being managed by people? Is it like a property manager? I'm trying to get some information from the building. And then I might write it on something like this. Now, these are all made up addresses, but what I've done here, I've taken this stretch here and I've picked a few buildings. I've looked at them on the, you know, Street View. And then I'm saying 97 Main Street. Maybe MF means multifamily, and maybe maybe plaza, maybe mixed. It could be 5 level, it could be 1 level. Remember, I'm just making some of these things up. This isn't actually, these may be actual addresses, but this data is not actual to the address. This could be a 42 unit. The class is 1. To me, a class could be, is it lower income, middle income, upper income? Upper income. P could be what type of condition is it in? Is it in poor condition? Is it in great condition? I just map out each of my buildings. And this is what I teach my students what to do, how to do it. And then I pretty much will create a chart for it, just making some stuff up here. So it might be the date, the city, the address, the type, the levels, the units, the class. Is it the condition? Who's the property manager? What's the property manager's number? Maybe I have the owner, maybe I have the owner's number, throw a picture in there and it's a note. Spoke to property manager, sent emails, owner may sell, 2 vacant, updated boiler. Spoke to owner, sent email, no sell, looking for deals, maybe I can assign to them, left message, call back in 3 days. So this is just a simple spreadsheet that I'm putting my information in. So I'm creating my system to farm my area. Then of course, using the door-to-door, the sign, the rent, or the property management company, you know, door-to-door just means you go right to the buzzer, you find a super, you buzz it. Now, if it doesn't say superintendent, usually you buzz 1 and you say, oh, hi, I heard you're the superintendent. They'll say, I'm not the super. Oh, I'm so sorry. Then I'll say, well, who is? And they might tell me who is, like number 2, number 5. Now, if somebody says to me, no soliciting, no selling, hey, I'm not selling. I'm going to buy the damn thing. So I'm not soliciting, right? Keep that in mind. But ultimately, just by saying, you know what, I thought you were the super, they'll say, no, I'm not. And now I can say, sorry. And they'll say, no problem. They give me who the super is. Sometimes when you buzz the number that says the property manager or the super, you go right to the owner. So be prepared to talk, okay? Now, sometimes you'll see a sign in front of a building. I've just blackened this sign out here. So I'll call that sign. Could be the owner, could be the super, could be the property manager. I'm prepared to use my property manager script or my owner script. Sometimes I might just go onto the internet and punch in 2 bedroom, 4 rent, Hamilton. Get a list of all these 2 bedrooms. And then I might see if any of their phone numbers are still active from maybe some past sales. And I can probably call and see if I can contact an owner. And of course, I may just go into and this is an example of a random script or a random search, just a 2-bedroom, and some of these numbers may still work. Because I'm trying to contact the owner. It may look like this as well. And of course, I may just type in property management for Kitchener, property management for Guelph, property management companies for St. Catharines, property management companies for Hamilton. You get a list of property management companies. Now, you can't just call a management company and say, oh, hi, I want to buy a property that you manage. That's not going to work. When you click on property management company, you'll go to their website. You'll see a list of properties that they're looking to get tenants for. And from that, it might say 1 King Street. So now I have an address. So I call the management company and I say, oh, hi, I'm looking for the person who's in charge of managing 1 King Street. So by calling the management company and looking for a specific property, I'm not looking to rent from that property. I'm not looking to buy the property. It's just a property they have under management that I found in their list on their property management website of what they're trying to rent. I'll just say, yeah, I'm actually looking to talk to the manager. When the manager comes on, I just say, oh, my name is Matt Frederick. I'm actually trying to contact the property owner. I have an important document for that owner. Pause. When you say you have an important document for that owner, right there they're thinking, wait a second, is this some kind of a civil lawsuit? So they pause for a second, and then they say, well, what's it about? And then I say, because remember, I want them to feel as though I have some kind of a lawsuit for them, right? Get their attention right there. And then I say, well, it's an important document. It's a document to purchase the property. They're going to say 2 things to me. They're going to say, well, I don't think it's for sale, or, okay, I can pass it on. If they say that it's not for sale, I'll say to them, well, I buy properties this way. Most properties I buy in the multifamily realm are not really through realtors. I may have a realtor help me, and they may get paid through that. But in most cases, people don't generally sell through a realtor. They sell through word of mouth. And as it's a $100,000 decision, because the person may hire a realtor in 6 months, meaning that if I contact them ahead of time, chances are they may end up selling it. They may not be a realtor. Again, I don't have issues with realtors. I love realtors. But I'm just saying, in this off-market scenario, ultimately it's, if you pass my information on, then ultimately, if they have a decision to make, they can make that decision. And I'll tell you something, 100% of the time, the property manager says the owner is not going to sell. And I'm going to tell you 70% of the time, that's true. 30% of the time, they're going to sell within that year or 1 year later. Because I, as a building owner, I don't tell my property manager or anybody, my superintendent, when I'm ready to sell. That's my personal financial business. So either way, that's what you want to do there, right? And of course, in this case here, I chose a company. It has a property being listed. I would call that company and see if I can forward my information to the owner. When the owner does call, and in fact, in the last month, I've probably had about 4 different owners, 1 in Whitby, 2 in Kitchener, 1 in Barrie, and a number of others actually call me because we contacted them this way. Now, what do property management companies want? Or what do I want from property management companies? I would love for them to give me the information of the owner. That almost never happens. They keep the owner's information private. So what I can hope for is that they forward the information to the owner. Then I call them back in 3 days to say, did you forward my information? Obviously, I would want them to inform us about upcoming sales. And this happens when I begin to create a relationship with them to say, if I do buy in the area, I do want to take on some property management. Can you guys be that? And can you now send me information? I'm almost like a potential customer to you. That's what I get from the property manager. But when I talk to the owners, oh, by the way, I'll come back to this in a second. Let me just jump past this. But when I talk to an owner of a property, what am I actually focusing on? Everybody just says, hey, can I buy your property? The owner might say no. For me, that's just the first thing. I'll say, I want to buy your property. Oh, it's not for sale. Okay. Well, do you have any other properties in your portfolio? They might have a property in their portfolio, maybe a donkey, one they don't love, but they want to sell. If they say no, I'll go, okay, just before I go, are you still growing? Because if you're still growing, I can find properties, and I do find properties this way. And from time to time, I look at them, I analyze them, they don't match my criteria, but I can send them to you for your review and selection. So they're not selling, They have nothing else in their portfolio, but they're still growing. So they may take an assignment property, a multifamily that I've found, and they may look at it and they may pay me for that assignment fee if possible. So, and if they say, nope, they're not really interested in growing, I'll go, okay, just before I get off the phone, do you have a JV with anybody? Because they might want to join venture. Okay, you know what? Thank you very much. Let me ask you a quick question. I always ask this of people. I go back and I'll say, how did you get into property management to begin with? Or how did you end up buying properties to begin with? And then they tend to open up a bit more. So you ask them a crack open question. How'd you get into this? Cracks them open. Why'd you get into this? You know, how did you move from where you were to where you're going to be? I'd love to know this because I'm an investor. There's very few of us. And once they start talking a bit, then I can probably say to them, okay, well, do you know anybody else who wants to sell a property? It might be even, and before I get off the phone, do you ever lend money to people like myself who is looking to invest in property? At the same time, if I end up talking to the owner and the person is selling in the future, I might ask them for a VTB. At the same time, I'll always say to them, hey, listen, you know what? As landlords, there's so few of us that there's a person right now who's looking out for us. There's a girl named Kayla, and she's with a landlord company. I'd love to keep you updated with a quick newsletter on what she's talking about so that we can get together as landlords. This is just my way of quickly trying to get them to accept some kind of a forwarding future email. And then if all fails, I might say, oh, before I get out of here, you ever considered investing in Belize? Because people do have a desire to invest elsewhere. Now, before I get off the phone, you ever think of investing in Florida or Arizona? And sometimes they'll say, yeah, I'm thinking of moving to Florida. I'll say, tell you what, if you're going to sell your building at some point and you're looking to go to Florida, I can help you find the right place in Florida. And if I can do that through my contacts there, my realtors there, maybe we could do some business. So I know I've gone through that at 90,000 miles per hour, but ultimately, when I talk to an owner, there are 9 things I want to say to them, not just one, and I just slowly move them along the path, okay? That's very, very important. And my goal is when I talk to the owner is my first contact, which I have a certain script. And by the way, when I talk to an owner and, you know, I'll say, hey, my name's Matt Frederick. They'll say, how can I help you? I'll say, you know what? I was in the area. I saw your building. I like your building. I think it's in a great location. And then they say, well, how can I help you? I say, I want to buy it. I don't say, you know, I saw a building that's a bit run down. I'm thinking maybe I might buy it, maybe I won't buy it. It looks like it's your building. No, I go in with, you know, my hands up. I surrender. I love your building. You know, I think it's a great building. I think it's a great area. It's fantastic, well kept. Okay, how can I help you? I want to buy it. Boom, it hits them. Oh, and then they tend to laugh, or they tend to say, well, I'm not sure if I really want to sell it. And then I'll say to them, well, if you don't want to sell, are you expanding, or do you have anything else in your portfolio? See how I just move on? The second letter would be more to do with getting some more details on them. And the third would be an email where I send to get some more details, whether they want to grow or expand in different areas, or they want to sell. I get on my pro forma details. I do my quick analysis to figure out, is this building something really good? Put it in my spreadsheet, figure out what's my offer price, what's my fallback price, where am I going to be in 5 years if I buy this? Then I do my Form 100. If I have a realtor, the realtor will do that for me, or I might just do it myself. And your Form 100 is your purchase and sale agreement. And I decide, am I going to assign this thing to somebody else? Or am I going to buy it? Or I'm going to JV with somebody? If I'm going to assign it, then I'm going to use a Form 145. So Form 100 to buy it, and Form 145 to assign it. Or I'm going to Form 100 to buy it, and then actually JV with my partner, okay? So keeping that in mind, if I'm going to, let's say, assign it, I'll just finish up on this. I have to create an assignment package where I have a basic package, which does not give the address, but gives teasers to people who I may talk to about assigning. Let's say I send out to 30 people a teaser. I may have 10 people who are interested. Of the 10 who are interested, I'll give them a more advanced package, which has all the details. Now, the 10, maybe 3 might want it. The 3 who want it, I may see if they want to do the Form 145, which is taking over the assignment, okay? Sorry about jumping around so much here. Let me just get back to the spot. And of course, what if I want to JV with somebody? I found somebody who actually wants this deal. Well, I'll give them my JV package, which is the basic package, which is a teaser to see who really wants this and who can qualify. I mean, that might be 15 people. Of the 15 people, I may find about 5 of them who really want to JV with me. I give them the advanced package, all the information. And if that's the case, then we actually go through the process of actually working the deal. Most of my multifamily, and I've had over 18, the first one I bought with my sister's financing. The other ones, the 17, I pretty much, well, actually, one more I bought with the VTB. I bought it for $680, VTB $500,000, $108,000 down, so that was mine. But the remainder I bought as a JV partner who brought in the down payment, the closing cost, and the mortgage money. And I went on deck as the person who finds the property and does all the work, and also asset manages the property along the way. So some people want to have a multifamily building for themselves. That's great. I've found that after you buy 1 or 2, you're probably locked down. So if you want to grow in this field, you have to focus on how to get JV partners. And of course, you have to focus on how to get buildings off market. And those are the key things that you want to look at. And just in closing, when I look at a building, just a quick look, I ask myself, how many units? What's the asking price? What area is it in, low or middle? What city is it in? Let's say Barrie. What's the NOI, net operating income? Well, it's 51,000. Do I like it? Yeah, I'm okay with that. I wish it was 10,000 more. So really, it's about 10,000 less than I want. What's the cap rate of the building itself? 6.5. That's good to me because the area is 6.2. I'm buying higher than the area's cap rate. By the way, Barrie is not 6.5. It's about 4.8 to 5 cap rate. Cash flow, 650X. I don't like it. I want $2,000 cash flow, so I'm 1,350 short. The price per unit, 200,000X. I don't like it. 180 is the area's price per unit, so I'm 20,000 on. Cash on cash returns 4%. I don't like it. I want 7%. And return on investment is 9%. I'm okay with it. Now, of course, when I look at all these numbers, I then apply it back to the asking price to see what can I modify to make things work. And then just in closing, looking at the building, I say, what are the problems with the building? What are the problems with the tenants? What are the problems with the area? So perhaps the water bill was too high, 9,500. What's the cause of that? Maybe the toilet runs on. Maybe it's got a large toilet tank. I've got to throw a brick in there to reduce the water in that tank. Well, maybe I would do that. I'll get a low flush toilet. So dishwasher in the units, maybe I'll get those out. By the way, I have used the brick in there. I've put a lot of stuff in there. 5-pound weight, dumbbell, takes up room. So the owner pays the utility. Maybe that's the problem. What's the plan? I want to quarterly check the flaps. Maybe I get a smaller tank, remove the dishwasher, change the laundry system. Maybe it's going to cost me $12,000. It might take 3 months to implement when I buy the property. Hydro bill is kind of high. What's the cost? No separate meters. Maybe the plans to separate those meters. It's going to cost me $60K. And who knows? Mold in basement. What's causing that? Low spot under front stair. You're just going to jot down some of the things that you see before your inspection that might be an issue and how you would solve it. And maybe even after inspection. And of course, tenant problems. Well, let's see, COVID-19, loss of job, a rental board closed. Need to catch up plan to, maybe I'll continue to do my N4s and L1s. Maybe I'll lose about $9,000. Who knows? So what are my tenant problems, right? And then, of course, what is my, move this out of the way. What are the problems in the area? There's a condemned house down the street. What's the cause of that? Unknown. What's my plan for that? Maybe I'll bug the city to do something about it. Maybe I'll buy it. So generally, that's it. That's your multifamily in a nutshell. It's really, do you want to have 12 to 24 to 30 houses, or do you want to have 1 or 2 or 3 buildings? You want something that's a Honda Civic, a house, or a Jeep, which is a building. At the same time, they're both expensive to get to the point where you're making $6,000 plus a month. So why not? You can do both or do one or the other. At the same time, you have to have a system where you can grab an area, you farm the area. That area usually is where multifamily buildings are. They've been built 50 years ago. generally on the way towards a Walmart, still by the core of the city. And then when you do that, you own that area. You figure out who are the owners, who are the property managers, what is there for those buildings. And then you begin to use a system of door knocking or buzzing or property management companies to contact the owners. And you have a script to talk to the owners to see if they want to sell. And then if they don't want to sell, maybe they're still growing. So I find someone to sell and I can assign to somebody who's growing, do a few assignment of contracts, build up your money, your base money, so that you can be a good JV partner to somebody else and live on that money as well. At the same time, once you have that established, you begin to realize that, having many larger with partners, to me, is a hell of a lot easier than dealing with 30 or 40 houses. And like I said, I've had the 30 houses, and I've had them all across the country, and also in Arizona and Florida. And I found that to be a job.
Right. Hey, Matthew.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Matthew, can I just jump in? That was great. That was a ton of information. I almost feel like I can just go out and do it right now. Every time I hang out with you, I always feel like I 10x my knowledge as well too. But I got a whole bunch of questions I want to ask you, but I also want to open it up to the floor so that people can ask some of their questions as well too. The one question that I will ask, and then I'll open it up, is when you get into multifamily, obviously the price of these properties are a lot more. How do you go about raising funds or doing VTBs? Because that's obviously something that's possible as well too, right? And for anybody who doesn't know what a VTB is, maybe you can explain that as well too, Matthew.
Yeah, so a VTB is obviously you're having the seller hold a mortgage. So it might be property's $1 million, and keep it simple. I'm going to get $600,000 from the bank, and now I have to find $400,000 cash out of my pocket. But maybe I can get the owner to hold the mortgage for $200,000. I'm going to probably pay them 5.5% for the next 3 years. Could be 5 years, could be 7. And therefore, if the bank provides $600,000, which the owner will get, and I owe the owner $200,000, which is a VTB, vendor take-back mortgage. In the U.S., it's called STB, seller take-back mortgage, or STB. Yeah, that's right. And then I put $200,000 down. So that's a VTB. Now, if you're talking to a person who has a multifamily building and you're asking them to hold a mortgage at $200,000, mostly they don't want to do it. They just want their cash. So you have to show them a benefit on why they might want to do it. So number one, it makes the deal possible. Harder to get financed sometimes. But number two, it might help them with capital gains. Because if they bought the building for about $400,000, today it's worth $2 million, that's $1.6 million of gains. If they take the entire $1.6 million in one chunk, that's massive tax there. You can actually write off your VTB over the next 5 years, which means they can defer receiving a chunk of their money for 5 years. And it just might be that 5 years from now, they're in retirement stage. Or maybe right now, 5 years from now, they're in a lower income stream. Because in a lot of cases, like I'm closing on 2 deals now, and the guy who's selling, his concern is, if I get all this money before December 31st, this year has been a very, let's say, beneficial year for him financially. Now he's going to tack on the capital gains for these 2 buildings on top of what he made, which is not going to really help him. So for him, he wants to stay 3 years before he receives the bulk of his money. So that's one way to get financed through VTBs, right? Better take back mortgages. But you sell it more with the gain. You can save yourself paying taxes. You can defer that portion for a period of time. Secondly, I tell them, when you spend this money, your son and daughter who are 30 and 40, when you sell this building, they're going to spend it. So you've spent your entire life, you're 67 years old, and right now you sell a building, you get $2 million in your pocket. With $2 million in your pocket, it'll disappear very, very rapidly. Why don't you encumber some of that money? You can't spend it if you don't get it all. And if you allow me to pay you a chunk of that money over a period of time, 5 years, that's a great way for you not to have that money to have to turn around and spend it and give it to everybody else. Now that kind of sounds kind of crazy, but it's true. And secondly, some people have vices. Just because you're selling your building and you're a gambler, you might gamble that money away. So why don't you let me pay you over time? Or if you're a drinker, you'll drink it. If you're into sports betting, you'll do that too. So we all have vices. I like pizza. That's my vice. It's not going to hurt me financially. Makes me fat, but I'm okay with that. But ultimately, everybody has a vice. So either the vice, either it's going to be you have to shell that money out to your family, or at the same time, this may be an annuity, so you can get payments over a period of time. Older folks understand annuity. And lastly, it will help you with capital gains. So I use that method for them. I have a guy right now who's got a sixplex, and he's got a 10-unit building, and he says he's not going to sell it. He wants to retire with it. I says to him, "You're not the healthiest guy, so which means you're not really a hands-on guy. Ultimately, when you get sick, you don't get sick in chunks. You get sick in pieces. So therefore, a 10-unit for you probably won't work in retirement. You might need 2 6-units. That way, if something bad happens, you can sell 1 unit and keep another. Also, I might help you get into the strip plaza scenario where it's more hands-off management. So if you sell your 10 building to me, then I'll get you a 6, which I can assign to you from somebody else. I can assign your 10 building to somebody else, but I'll find a 6-unit strip plaza. The combination of the two might be better for you. So I say all that to make you realize that you literally have to look at each person's situation and figure out, how am I going to help you move from where you are to where you want to be? I have another guy who says, I have a 6-unit, that's my retirement. And say, no, not enough for you. You need a 12-unit to retire. Okay, so sell the 6, I'll get you a 12, and we can do some work that way.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, Matthew. I appreciate that. Okay, let me go through some upcoming events really quick, and then anybody just open up your mics if you want to ask Matthew any questions, or go ahead and type in the chat box. So next Tuesday, I am doing a time management and goal setting presentation for our members only. So if you're a member, if you're online, you guys can get into there absolutely free. I would say this is probably one of the hardest things that I actually had to try and figure out when I had to transition from the 9-to-5 corporate world into being an entrepreneur, because all of a sudden now you're your own boss, and you really have to make sure that you understand time management and goal setting. Probably one of the most critical things any entrepreneur needs to understand. Next Thursday at 8 p.m., I've got my good friend Dan Patton, who is our trusted mortgage agent. For all you guys, I'm not sure if you guys know this, but Darlene has transitioned now out of the mortgage world. She still has her license, but Dan is our man, and Butler Mortgages, they are the #1 mortgage brokerage in Canada. And I just recently did a podcast with Susan White Livermore. I don't know if you guys have heard of her. Phenomenal. She calls herself the Millionaire Mom. This is the first time I've actually been back in the studio at our neighborhood Realty, and I had a ton of fun with her, and we really kind of dug into her past and what allowed her to get to where she is today. And anybody in the call, if you guys are looking for coaching, myself, Chris, Quentin, we're realtors and we're also investors, and we can definitely help you. And if you haven't had a chance to check out our website, Quentin's going to type in all the URLs that you guys need to register for all the upcoming events. But you can go to the website, put your name in, put your email address in, and you will get a free copy of how to screen tenants. Okay, with that, boom, Matthew, back over to you, my friend. Actually, before we do that, let's get to that first question there from, was that the first one there, Aaron? Yes, okay. So Matt, I'm not sure if you see this, but I'll read it out to you. So great information as always. Currently, some tenants not paying rent in some of these properties. Do you try it? You try to get the property at a discount for those not paying tenants, so as to assign this property to a better price to your assignee? What would make sense for the assignee to buy this property, knowing some tenants are not paying rent during COVID and waiting for evictions?
Okay, so I have a couple that I'm mentoring, and they were up in Sudbury, and they bought a building. I think it's the 23-unit building. And I actually had them go back in and renegotiate the buy price $60,000 less to compensate for what's happening now or what could happen. Now, this was about 2.5 months ago. So, I mean, now people are more aware of what's happening or what's not happening. But 2.5 months ago, it was a bit more scary, right? It's scary now, but it was a bit more scary back then. But if I'm negotiating, I would try to reduce the price based on, how many units do you have that are actually not fully paid or fully rented. At the same time, as long as the person is doing their N4s and their L1s, when the board does open, that person may end up moving out. The biggest problem I'm finding with multifamily today is the rents are too low. To give an example, in Barrie, I'm looking at a 17-unit building. The average rent is $1,250 for a 2-bedroom. In that building, $1,250. Today, you can get for a 2-bedroom in Barrie, $1,500 to $1,680. So literally, I have to wait till people move out in order to actually get the rents that's really required. So if I'm looking at a building with people who are not paying, that's not going to help me getting financed. But chances are, those people, good people, but they may move out, and then it gives me a chance to, well, you know what, put somebody in at a reasonable rent. Because again, I'm seeing low rents in a lot of these buildings, and it's just too far below what they should be. And what I would do is, most likely, if one person moves out, I may even pay someone to move out. What do they call that now? Cash for keys. Pay someone to move out, fix that unit up, and see if somebody in the building might want to pay more for that unit. And if they moved out, I'll fix up their unit, and maybe somebody wants to pay more for that unit within the building, and so on and so forth.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Matt. Anybody else have any other questions? You can go ahead and unmute yourself or type in the chat box.
I'll also send the PowerPoint to you so that you have that to send to people.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Now, some people ask me, moving from houses to buildings, what was it like? Well, I'll use an example with me today. So I'm 55 years old. I'm 280 pounds. I should be 250. So I'm 30 pounds overweight, and nothing's working. But over the last 3 weeks, I've been able to pull together a combination of things. I'm drinking water. I'm walking at night. I'm going to the gym, working on weights. I'm watching when I'm eating. I'm not eating after 7. I'm going to bed at about 10:30. I'm not eating crazy things like pizza. So it took about 7 things simultaneously for me to get on board with. I wasn't losing weight because I might just drink water, but I'll still eat pizza. Or I might not do weight training. I might just do stretching. I had to bring 7 things together simultaneously for me to actually begin to lose weight at my age. If you're going to go from residential to commercial, you got to find things in your life and look at things with real estate. And I can help you with that. And so could Chris or Quentin or Gary help you bring 5 or 6 or 7 things together at one time to get to that next level. That's how you get results. So that's important to consider.
Right. So what if somebody says now, you know what, I've been doing this now for 6 months. I've been having a super difficult time. I think I need some help, or I need some guidance. Do you do anything like that, Matthew? Would you hold an investor's hand from beginning to end to get them into their first multifamily?
Yeah, you know what? I think that's the best thing to do, to take someone's hand and walk them through the entire process of how to see that building, how to talk to the owner with them, talk to the people who are going to be the ones who are repairing the building, talk to the tenants with them. I believe that it's more of a one-on-one, how to ride a bicycle, as opposed to just maybe books and tapes, or only videos. Somebody asked the question, do I do private financing? It all depends on the scenario. So right now, I have a building that we're buying, and it was a 6-plex. So I went to Royal Bank because they treat a 6-plex like a residential property. I was hoping to get 2% and obviously a 25-year amort. As they went through the process, it didn't happen. So I had to switch to private money, which was 5%. The problem with the 5% is we're locked in for 3 years. But I'm okay with that because this building needs about 3 years for tenants to move out and wants to move in to get to the right rent, to get the right value of the building. So I will use private money for 1 year, maybe 2 or 3 at 5%. If it's higher, like 7, 8, 9, 10%, I'll keep it under the year, and I'll be open, and I'll see if I can fix that building up and get that money through. But again, going back to your question, Gary, I think hands-on, one-on-one, it's something that I do. I don't mentor many people a year. I might mentor 21, 22 people. but it's more of a one-on-one relationship. It takes about a year, and we get a result.
Okay.
And I think that's important. Results-based training is so important.
Okay, that's great. And so, what's the best way for somebody to get a hold of you? So you want me to share your email address? Is that the best way to reach out to you from
Yeah.
this call?
Yes, you can. And I have a phone number just for that purpose. It's if anyone has a pen and paper handy, it's 289-440-2335. So you can text me at 289-440-2335, or you can check out my website. It's 6 letters, rccsol.com.
So what was it again there, Matthew? 289-440-2335.
2335.
Are you sure you want to give it your cell?
Yeah. Well, I have 2 cells. I have one for real estate investing.
Oh, okay.
And I have one for everything else. Now, do you have both my numbers, Gary, or do you have just the one number?
I just got the one number.
I'm gonna
You haven't given me the second one yet.
Okay, I'm gonna give you the special friend number.
Thank you. All right, cool. And then the website one more time.
So 6 letters, rccsol.com. So real estate, co-venture coaching solutions.com.
Okay, and I just shared that in the group chat as well to everybody. So I got a question here from Ron. Hi, Gary. Is there anything he'd do differently now from what he did when he first started his multi-unit strategy?
You know what? When I first started, I was invincible. In other words, I was flying pretty close to the sun. Didn't think my wings will melt. And I didn't really have people in my circle that I could turn to. I figured I was great at residential, and multifamily is just bigger residential. So, to do it again, I've mentioned this before in the past, if I'm doing residential, I will spend 20% of my time doing a learning commercial before I jump into it. Number one. Number two, you always have to find somebody who's actually doing it. And you want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think in the beginning, I heard some of the ugly, but I didn't think that ugly would apply to me. I thought I was better than that. I'm like, that only happens to people who are goofballs. It's not going to happen to me because I'm invincible. So I had to lose a bit of ego, get a bit of humility. And the reason why I had to have ego and humility is back in my day, nobody really invested. So if I had like 30 friends, only myself and maybe one other guy invested. So I had to be so strong to back myself up that sometimes it makes you invincible. I had to balance that. So I think that's important to consider. I would probably change that if I could do it again.
What about commercial? I know you've done commercial in the past. With COVID and everything that's happened this year, do you see any opportunities? Is it something that you would recommend to maybe stay away from, focus more on multifamily? What are your thoughts on that, Matthew?
Okay, so I have office buildings and I have strip plaza. Office buildings are great, but again, I've never been able to keep an office building more than 85% full for more than about 9 months. So it's almost like somebody's coming and going. So I'm not crazy about office buildings. Again, if they're full, amazing. If you have 3,000, 4,000 square feet, that's hard to fill again if somebody moves out. So for me, I'm not crazy about that. The strip plazas I like. I always go back to my RIP process. It's got to be recession-proof businesses in that strip plaza. So a convenience store is recession-proof. A pizza shop is recession-proof. A haircutting place is recession-proof, but guess what? Now it's not pandemic-proof. So all my recession-proof things were working pretty well, and my internet-proof, meaning you can't just, like if you want a haircut, you can't send your hair across to India, get it cut, and bring it back. You have to get it cut here. So any business that the internet cannot affect, or any business that the recession cannot affect, I always use that as my gauge. And if I'm buying a plaza, a strip plaza, 8 or 9 units, and I made sure those businesses were in there, and they did very well for the first 6 months of the pandemic, first 4 months. Okay, but the restaurants couldn't hold on, and the hair cutting and the massage therapy, they were having a very hard time because of the pandemic. So now I have to look at recession-proof, internet-proof, and now pandemic-proof. In other words, I have to look at all the businesses that stayed open during the pandemic, because every 3 years, we're going to have a problem like this. I mean, we're stretching out to areas of the world where we never were. And we're cutting down trees and things are melting. So I know well, not for a fact, but I feel as though every 2 or 3 years, if it's not Zika or SARS or H1N1 or Ebola or COVID-19, it's going to be something. So therefore, if you're going to have retail or strip plaza, got to be smaller units, 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. They could be replaced. At the same time, it's got to be RIP businesses so you can survive. And then you make a lot more money with those than you do with multifamily. Lastly, mixed use, I love the best. 6 stores, 6 apartments. That's very nice. So I have the best of both worlds.
Good tips, Matthew. Always good tips. I like that. You know, pandemic proof your life. I think you've hit it right there on the head. We got a few minutes left. There's another question that just came in, and I know when it comes to multifamily, you're obviously, you know, dealing with outlaying a lot more money, a lot more funds. So obviously now you may have to do joint ventures. So the question from Dom is, when you're structuring a joint venture, how should it look? What's an example of a cash flow and appreciation split? Do you have any ideas or tips on that?
Okay, a lot of it depends on your confidence, what you've done in the past, and how you can project your value. Because ultimately, my first JV was a 30 me, 70 them, because they put all the money. And I just didn't believe that, like, personally, I would never give all the money and give somebody anything. So I'm like, you know, it was hard for me to believe it. But the person took it. But after 6 months, I realized something. I'm the one who's doing all the work. And that 30% for me and 70 for them, by a year, I felt as though I was almost in an advanced form of slavery, because they're getting all the money, I'm getting a little bit of doing all the work. So I learned that lesson right away. So ultimately, I like a 50-50 split, but I went from 30 me, 70 them. My next one was 40 me, 60 them. My next one was 50-50. My last 4 JVs were 70-30. I'm 70, they're 30, and they put all the money, because ultimately I have a track record, I know what I'm doing, and I know how to package it. So to answer your question, it depends on where you are in your knowledge, depends on where you are in your ability to deliver your goods and your ability to find off-market deals and your ability to make this thing work. And just really quickly, you know, you can't just say to somebody, okay, I'm 50, you're 50. Right after start, they think they're 90 and you're a 10. And I'm like, I'm okay with that to start off with. But when I show them that I know the math, they see that all of a sudden, maybe I should be 80, I should be 20 and they should be 80. Then when I show them how I understand the area, then all of a sudden it goes to 70 them, 30 for me. And when I show them the understanding of how the buildings work, mentally, now it's 40 for me, 60 for them. When I show them how I'm going to make them money and advance the building, refinance it, pull money out, now it's 50-50. When I show them how I can handle tenants and repairs and everything else, now in their mind, I'm 60 and they're 40. And I take them one extra level to get them mentally to believe that I should be 70 and they should be 30. And as a gift, I bring it back up to 50-50. But not in one step. In stages, you mentally move them like this, then you bring it back up again. It's like when you meet, well, you know, I'm not married, but when you met your wife, Gary, I don't know if you said to her on the first date, hey, can I marry you? Maybe that worked. You're a good-looking guy. That wouldn't work for me. Okay, I don't have that smile. So ultimately, I would have to do things in stages. And that's how I do JVs in stages as well.
Right. Listen, great advice, great tips. And you heard it first here. Well, not first, but you've heard it. Okay. So anybody that's new to this, do you actually think that you need the money to do this? You can actually use experience, and experience is more valuable than the money. I didn't believe it in the beginning as well either, Matthew, but it really and truly is. I'm actually working on a deal right now where I'm not putting anything in. You know, my investor is, and it's the experience. Once you have the experience, it can take you so much further. Matthew, thank you very much for being here. And so again, listen, guys, if you want to get mentoring from Matthew, and like I said before, he's probably one of the best out there that's doing this in the multifamily space. I trust him. He's been a mentor of mine. His phone number is there. His website is there. Reach out, have a conversation with him. and buy him a coffee if you do take him out. Okay, at least do that for him. All right, guys. Listen, thank you guys very much for joining this Lunch and Learn. And again, we'll see you guys next Thursday, 8 p.m. Dan Patton, where we're going to be talking about mortgages, predictions, bank changes, everything you need to know about what's happening in the new world that we live in. All right. Thanks, guys. Take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.